Today, we're gonna do a video that I am a little bit late on. I actually got tagged a few weeks ago, and with holidays and we actually had some unexpected car problems, I just haven't been able to record. So I'm finally getting around to it. So this is the postscript tag. Jordan over at Jordan Reads was kind enough to tag me in this. I don't do a ton of tag videos, so whenever I end up getting tagged, I try to do them because I don't do them super often. This should be a fun little year-end tag. I don't know that I have the most diverse answers. I only read 32 books this year, which sounds like a lot, but whenever you start realizing that so many of those are in a series, we're gonna have a few repeat authors on this list, but that's okay. It's still fun. So the first question is the longest book you read this year and the book that took you the longest to finish. And these are both the same book, even though maybe it might be kind of close between this book and another book. But Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb, I think, is the longest book that I read this year. It's like 800 something pages. I don't know how many thousand words. But I think the runner up for that, for longest took me to read, would probably be Demon in White by Christopher Rocchio. That's another long, beefy, dense book. Not dense in a boring way, but definitely just a lot of material gets covered in that book, and it's really good. It was one of my favorite books of the year, but both of those took me, I think, just about a month each to read. Definitely was worth it, was worth the read. I actually think that I enjoyed Assassin's Quest more than a lot of people that I've seen talk about it. Yeah, those probably my answer for number one. I kind of get to skip these next two because I did not reread any books this year. Every book that I read this year was a new book. And so that's kind of fun that there were no repeats. That won't be the same for next year. There's going to be some books that I'm planning on rereading next year. But this year I didn't reread anything. Everything that I read this year was first time through. So I'm just going to skip those two. A book that I read for the first time that I look forward to rereading. Once again, kind of a repeat author here, but Royal Assassin by Robin Hobb it's probably my favorite book that I read this year. Just the more that I think about it, the more that I love it. I think it's the strongest of the Farseer trilogy. Even though, like I said, I enjoyed Assassin's Quest more than a lot of people that I know, I think Royal Assassin just absolutely gutted me and blew me away, and I just absolutely loved it. I can't wait someday to eventually reread the Farseer trilogy, hopefully after I've finished the rest of the Realm of the Elderlings, and I can kind of look back read it with some foresight and knowing where things are going and have a deeper understanding of kind of the world and what's happening. I'm excited about that. I would say that I also read The Lies of Locke Lamora this year, and I would say that was kind of like an honorable mention for this one, that I can't wait to reread that one. I'm kind of waiting to read the rest of the series because I have some pretty ambitious reading plans for next year, at least ambitious for me, but I'll make a different video about that. We'll talk about that later. Favorite single short story or novella that I read this year. I didn't read a ton of short stories this year. I'm not really much of a short story reader, not because I don't enjoy them, but I don't really know of a lot. So most of the short story reading that I did this year came with the Sun Eater read along. So that was like Queen of Mid Ashes and The Lesser Devil. Both of those are phenomenal short stories. I enjoyed both of them. I especially enjoyed The Lesser Devil, just seeing a different perspective than Hadrian and Crispin, and just kind of getting to see a little bit of the universe through someone else's eyes was really cool. I also read The Emperor's Soul for the first time by Brandon Sanderson and really loved that. I think that one kind of deserves a lot of the praise that it gets. It's a really interesting world. Shai is such a cool character, and her abilities and the world of, I can't remember what the name of the planet is that Emperor's Soul takes place on. Such a crappy Cosmere fan, but I read that one this year and really loved it too. I'm trying to remember. Oh, but right here at the end of the year, I heard someone say that you could read The Paper Menagerie by Ken Liu for free on his website. And so I went and did that, and man, that is such a beautiful, heart-wrenching story. It's totally worth the, maybe 15 minutes that it would take you to pull it up and read it. If you've never read The Paper Menagerie, it made me want to go out and buy the rest of his short story collection, which I plan on doing fairly soon. Ken Liu has quickly become, I've only read The Paper Menagerie and The Grace of Kings, and he's quickly shot up my favorite authors list. I mean, he's just incredibly intelligent in every interview I listen in, and I could gush about him. That's not what this video is about. I'm a little hyper caffeinated and off track right now, but I don't really know that I had a standout favorite short story. I really loved all of the short fiction that I listened to. I think I waxed off the rest of the Cosmere short stories that are in Arcanum Unbounded. So I listened to Six of the Dusk and Shadows for Silence in the Forests of Hell or something like that. And they were fine. They didn't really stand out to me that much. I think it's a cool thing that Sanderson has this whole world that he can write these little short stories, these short novellas in, but they weren't anything special. But Paper Menagerie, the Sun Eater novellas, and Emperor's Soul in particular really stood out this year as just great short stories. Mass Appeal, a book that I liked and would recommend to a wide variety of readers. This one is kind of easy, I think, if by mass appeal we mean fantasy readers. I don't necessarily know how somebody who doesn't read a ton of fantasy would like it, but I read The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwen this year. It's the first review on the channel. Please don't go back and watch it. It's pretty bad, but I think that book would appeal to a lot of people. I know my brother-in-law listened to it, and he's a pretty avid reader. He likes fantasy and stuff like that, and so he absolutely loved it. I think that John Gwen has very approachable writing, but very engaging writing, and the stories are very plot driven. And so I think that people who might struggle with something more like farcy or something that's very slow paced and character oriented, John Gwen's Bloodsworn books are like action movies. I mean, you can just fly through those, and I think that the plots are gripping and engaging. The characters are good and fun to follow, and I think a lot of people could really read those and find something that they liked out of it. The Specialized Appeal, so a book that I liked, but I would be hesitant to recommend to just anyone, I would probably say The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu for this one. Like I said, I just kind of gushed about Ken Liu earlier, but I adored that book. It wasn't a perfect book for me, but I thought it was so fun. He is one of those authors that is just so intelligent. Like, you read his books and you can just tell that this guy is smarter than you, but in like the best way. He's not condescending or pretentious about it. It's just such a cool writing style with a, this third person omniscient voice. So kind of similar to Dune, if you've ever read Dune, but then treating this first book as a primer for the rest of the world to tell the story that he wants to tell, I think is just so cool. And as kind of a history nerd, I ate that up. I had never heard of the Chuhan Contention, which is kind of one of the actual historical events that inspired the book. And so that immediately made me just go and research and read and find this entire new period of history and a historical event to read about, which I just love. I love when that happens whenever I'm reading, whenever there's a like real world context that an author pulls from and uses as inspiration. Deadhouse Gates is another example of that. So it was really great. But I also think that, again, the perspective that it's written, the prose and the voice that is used in just telling the story could be off-putting to a lot of people. I think it could be potentially kind of boring for some people because there are points in the book, there are battles in the book, and they're interesting and they're fun and they're well written, but they're not like, it's not like a John Gwen action scene. You're not really getting the play-by-play of combat. You're kind of getting an external view of these nations being established. And so I don't think that it is a book for everyone, but I do think that the people that it's for will absolutely love it. If you're anything like me and you like history and you like just the establishing of nations, and he kind of addresses the question of what happens after a nation is established, which is super interesting, and how he does it is really cool. And he kind of rides the line of what could be considered epic fantasy, and so it's kind of fun in that way too, that especially if you read a lot of fantasy, it's a little different, it's a little fresh. So I highly recommend checking it out and seeing if it does fit your taste, because if it does, I think you'll absolutely love that book. So this last one is reflect on your year as a bookish content creator. Goals met, good bad memories, favorite videos, etc. I don't know, it was a good year. I think it was good just in that this is something, a YouTube channel in particular is something that I have thought about doing for years. I think a lot of people do it. And so just putting myself out there and doing it is something that I'm proud of. I wasn't able to stick to the schedule that I was hoping that I would be able to. And so that is definitely a goal for next year, is to have a little bit more structure and carve out more time and make the channel something intentional, and to grow it and to have more people to talk to about books. That's really my only goal with this channel, is to just meet new people that love talking about books. And so that is, I wouldn't even really call it a bad memory. It's just a way to grow. And there's never anything wrong with looking at a failed goal and looking at it as an opportunity to succeed next year, to try again, to do it better. And so that's really my goal. I don't view this year as a failure because I didn't meet all of my posting goals or anything like that. I view it as a chance to do better next year. And really my highlight of the year is just all the people that I've met through this awesome hobby, just people who love books. I think specifically of like Theo over at Rekindled Reader. We started our channels around a similar time, and he kind of just from that point on has just been a pretty good friend. And Jordan and Alex and really everybody over on the Grimoire Discord. If you haven't been over on the Grimoire Discord, it's really an awesome place. RJ, all of those guys are just awesome. It's really just been a cool experience. I've never had, I tell people all the time, I've never had like internet friends. I've never had friends that I didn't know in person. And getting to know people through this platform, which is such a positive place. I mean, there's a lot of places on the internet that are not positive, that are not, encouraging and just a fun place to be. And I'm really happy that our little corner of the internet is that it's safe and it's fun. And there's just awesome people who love talking about fantasy books and being nerds. And that's all I could have wanted from this. And so that's my favorite good memory of the year, is really just all the people that I've met who have become really cool friends. And I look forward to, continuing to get to know them and sharing in our love of reading as long as we can. And so, yeah, the last question is to tag some bookish content creators. I am always terrible about finding people to tag because I always feel like the people that I would tag have already been tagged. So if you're watching this, consider yourself tagged. I know that's kind of a cheap out, but there's also some people that I think who watch videos and never get tagged. So consider this your tag, that if you want to make this video and have been waiting for someone to tag you, this is it. Consider yourself tagged, and I look forward to watching those as well. So anyway, I've got a few more videos that I'm hoping to get shot this weekend. I've got a kind of a break from work, and so plenty of extra time to shoot and put some stuff out there. And so I'm going to work on that. But for now, that's all I got. So I'll catch you in the next one.